Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from the Black Wealth Bootcamp and the Black Business School, and I wanted to talk about something that I think could be a good learning point for all of us when we talk about children having kids, the expense of having kids, and just kind of the complications of it all. There's a story in Bleacher Report about Antonio Cromartie. Cromartie is an exceptionally talented defensive back, if I'm not mistaken, who plays for the New York Jets. Now, Cromartie hit the national news scene when he needed $500,000 to pay his child support, to pay back child support. Before he even started playing for the Jets, before he played a single down, they needed to give him a major advance to allow him to pay the child support. A few years later, you can see that his situation has gotten real complicated. As of now, according to the New York Post, Cromartie has 8 children with 7 women for whom he's paying child support, and the massive total of that child support is pretty high, pretty hefty. He pays $336,000 a year. $336,000 a year. Now that's more money than a lot of surgeons make in a year. That's more money than most medical doctors, most lawyers make in a year. And he's paying that much in child support, so that's after taxes. So that would mean pretty much that he'd have to make about $800,000 a year to always be able to make these child support payments. Now, of course, once he's done playing football, he should have good attorneys that get a reduction in child support. But from what I've seen, it's kind of difficult. It's not always as easy to get your child support dropped or reduced as it is to get an increase. And then on top of that, Cromartie has a couple kids with his wife, Tarika, twins on the way. Now he must have some pretty strong whatever you call seed or whatever, because his he got a vasectomy and got his wife pregnant with twins. So I guess productivity or reproductive organs can be pretty strong in some people, and sex drive can be pretty strong, and I think kids are a blessing. There's no question about that. But how you bring kids into the world plays a big part in terms of how happy they are and what their outcomes are and what your outcomes are. Now, in this country, for the average American, not for the average NFL player, but for the average American, a child costs about $250,000 a year. $250,000 to raise to 18, not per year. $250,000 to raise until the age of 18. And so every time you have a baby, every time somebody gets pregnant, you're signing an 18-year commitment, an 18-year contract where you've got to work day in, day out on a new job that is going to cost you. You're not going to get paid for this job. This is a job that will cost you a total of $250,000. Now, what's interesting, and I talked to my students about this in the Black Wealth Bootcamp, is I said, if you went up to somebody and said, I want you to sign this contract to join a medical program so you'll be a doctor when you're done, but the program takes 18 years to complete and it costs $250,000, will you sign? A lot of people wouldn't do that. A lot of people wouldn't commit to something that long, that huge. I mean, you're literally talking about, for some people, that's as much as a third or a fourth of their entire lifespan, or a third of their adult life. So a lot of people wouldn't sign up for something like that deliberately. But when you lay down and you sleep with somebody and somebody gets pregnant, then you've signed an 18-year contract to pay $250,000 and also give thousands of hours in labor toward raising another person. Now, what's interesting about the child support thing is that one of the fundamental premises of starting businesses and wealth building is to realize that your family is your first small business. That's the first business that you ever have. That's the first thing that you engage in that requires organization skills, some planning, some discipline, lots of resources. And if you manage that part sloppily, what happens is, if you're not careful, is it can kill your ability to do anything else. You can't start a business later on because you have so many economic obligations to other people, other situations. It's hard to start a family later on because you've got so many other people, so many other players in this game. If you look at Tarika and Antonio and their marriage, Tarika's marrying a man where she's dealing with 7 other women who all own a piece of him, other women who are already in the marriage before she came along. This really is polygamy. I mean, that's what it becomes effectively. So you got 7 sister wives who are going to interact with your children, who are going to be interfering with your household on some level, who are going to be complicating your life in some way. And I mean, God forbid any of them are still sexually attracted to him. Then you got a whole new host of problems. You got this man with a heavy sex drive, and he's got all these women that still want him, and that's not going to change. I mean, he is an NFL player, so you probably most of the women that want him, you probably don't even know anything about him. And so I'm not judging it. I'm not here to. I'm only judging it as a father would talk to his daughter. You know, when I talk to my daughters about this kind of stuff, I just point out, you know, a lot of the warning signs in terms of saying, okay, this is what you're going to have to deal with. You know, I understand why the guy with the big muscles, the football player, is attractive to you, but just know that you may be getting some other things that you may not anticipate that deviate from the fantasy that you have in your head, right? And it doesn't mean you should not pursue that, but at the same time, you got to know what you're working with. And what's interesting to me is I'm really curious to see how Antonio's story ends. We know how it's going now. Antonio signed a 4-year contract for $8 million a year. That's a lot of money. He's bringing home, let's say, about half of that. So he's bringing home about $4 million a year until he's done. He's on his way out, most likely, because this was the first season. This was his worst season ever. This was the first season he went the entire year without a single interception. Believe me, the NFL executives, the guys who own the team, his owners, his bosses, are sitting in the back, and they're doing math, and they're saying, okay, if we cut this guy, how much money will we save if we cut him? So they'll probably give him one more year before they make a decision about getting rid of him, in which case he may still play in the NFL, but it's going to be a whole different dynamic. It's going to be this kind of like with Terrell Owens, who also had a lot of kids. I mean, that's the thing. Testosterone increases men's sex drive, and it makes them want to have a lot of sex with a lot of different women, and then next thing you know, they got a lot of kids. That's what happens when you have sex. Kids come out, right? So with Terrell Owens, you got a guy who was in heavy demand by a lot of teams because he was so talented, but your physical body breaks down very, very quickly on a football field. The football is one of the most destructive sports that there is, other than boxing, when it comes to destroying your body and destroying your brain. A large percentage of football players have brain disorders when they're done. They have brain damage, just the same way they have damage on other parts of their body, their shoulders, their legs, their knees, everything else. Their heads are messed up too, some of them. And it can lead to all kinds of other complications, from depression to suicide. Go see Will Smith's movie Concussion if you want to understand it a little bit better. Will did a great job with this movie. I'm very glad he picked this role because more awareness needs to come to this. And so what happens is football players break down usually before by about their 30th birthday. They're pretty worn down, pretty good. By the time they're about 34, they're considered old. So effectively, with Antonio, I think he's about 31. So I'm curious to see how his story ends when he hits about 35, 36, 37. He may be smart. He may have really done some good financial planning. He may have really positioned himself to be able to take care of his kids. He may be able to manage and allocate the time necessary to be a good father all the time. I really think it would be a monumental task. Because remember, kids don't just require money, they require time. And you got 8, just the logistics of 8 children with 7 in 7 different locations, plus your 4 children in your house. And you're managing your football schedule. You're trying to be an NFL player on the road, a big chunk of the year. I just don't really see how a person can really emerge from all of this as a good father. I just don't see it, because the indicator of simply having all these kids with all these women means you had a lot of unprotected sex. You weren't very careful with your life. That's kind of, unfortunately, it indicates a type of sloppiness, just a lack of discipline. Like, put on a condom. I mean, let alone sleeping with 100,000 different women or all these different women. I mean, I'm not even judging that part. I'm talking about just put on a condom. So the fact that he did not have the discipline to even put on a condom makes me question whether he'll have the discipline to manage this complicated life he's going to have. And a complicated life is hard enough to manage when you have money, when you have resources. What's going to happen when he's not making the money? What's his plan B? What options does he have? What's his education level? What's his ability to come close to making what he's making right now once he's done playing? Now, of course, his child support will be probably dropped once he gets done playing, because his income is going to drop. But at the same time, if he has back child support to deal with, then it's very hard to pay the back child support of an NFL player when you're making an ex-NFL player's salary. So you're making $100,000 a year instead of $8 million a year, and suddenly you might have $1 million in back child support. Well, it's hard to pay off $1 million in debt with $100,000 salary or whatever. So I'm not saying he's behind. I'm not saying that at all. But what I will say is that I just really am concerned in the sense of not so much concerned for him, but really it's going to be interesting to see how his story ends. I wouldn't be surprised if he's on one of those 30 for 30 episodes about players who go broke. And a lot of players go broke because they can't manage their family situation intelligently. You cannot live simply in the here and now and expect your life to become what you want it to be. You can't make sloppy decisions and follow the crowd and think that you're going to end up on top. You can't just continue to do what everybody else is doing or everybody else has done. You got to think outside of that. And it's unfortunate because I see so many of these athletes who make enough money that they could literally build a multi-billion-dollar legacy in their families very easily. I'm talking about if somebody pays you over the course of several years, $50 million, $100 million, and NBA players really, I mean, the money they make is insane. When you make that kind of money, that's corporate money. That's enough money to build a corporate empire that lasts for the next 500 years. That's enough money that's capital. That's not just money that's meant for consumption. You're not supposed to consume that much money. You're not supposed to just spend that much money at the mall. You're not supposed to spend $10 million a year at the mall. That's sick. That's a mental illness. That's crazy. So that kind of money is supposed to grow. You're supposed to have that money invested where, Mark Zuckerberg, the owner of Facebook, do you know that Mark Zuckerberg probably makes $4 billion a year just from sitting there, from his money working for him? From his capital just being out there, just being invested. That's the thing. So if you're making 10 million, 20 million a year, 5 million a year, anything like that, you should be making at least hundreds of thousands, if not over $1 million a year, just by sitting there, just by having your money locked up in different business ventures. Your money should be growing for you. So if you have a mindset that where you're thinking like you're an hourly worker, but you're making 4 million, 5 million a year, that's crazy. So, and it also indicates that whoever's supposed to be giving you financial education, financial literacy advice is not doing a very good job. These white and Jewish guys are not doing a good job with these young black men. They are screwing their freaking heads. And guess what? This white guy is going to still be rich after you're gone. When they find a new black man to replace you, he's going to be rich and you're going to be back in the projects. You can't think that way. You can't. So I think Antonio Cromartie's case is not one where I'm sitting here just saying, oh, I want to just beat up on this guy and talk bad about him. I'm trying to do all that. I don't care. I mean, really, that's his life. Those are his kids. Those are his women, his experiences, whatever it is he wants to do. But I will say that I think that his situation should be a case study. I think people should watch, observe him very carefully, observe his life, 2 years from now, 4 years from now, 8 years from now, and see how the story ends. Because a lot of these stories end badly. Go study other stories of athletes like Antoine Walker and Vin Baker who made tens of millions of dollars and gone broke. That'll help you understand the importance of family planning when it comes to actually building wealth. One of the reasons black people remain enslaved, one of the reasons that we're so frustrated, one of the reasons that we get mistreated so badly is because we have not embraced the importance of understanding wealth building as part of our empowerment in this country. When we start to embrace wealth building and become smart and intelligent about ownership and building things, then we will be far more empowered. I became a lot less worried about how white people thought of me when I did not have to go beg white people every day to feed my family. That's the bottom line. So anyway, that's it. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from the Black Business School and the Black Wealth Boot Camp. You can actually join the Black Business School for free. The classes are very low cost, and anybody who wants to learn from me directly, you should go check it out. All right, guys. Well, take care and have a good day. And once again, Antonio, I wish you the best, brother. But this, man. Whew, you got a lot of headaches in front of you, man. Really. But anyway, take care. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.